All right, so welcome to Water Street Kitchen and the Eel Pond drawbridge. As I mentioned, this drawbridge is almost 200 years old, or at least some version of it as well. The little channel that's here, this is a saltwater pond that's here, the Eel Pond itself. Drawbridge goes up every half hour. There's a bridge tender, works 7 in the morning to 8, 9 o'clock at night in the summer. Hurricanes have not been kind to Woods Hole and certainly haven't been kind to the drawbridge itself. Major hurricane we had here in 1938. We had 3 Coast Guardsmen killed in that. 2 other Woods Hole residents, including my great-grandfather, was killed during the 38 hurricane. What happens is hurricane comes out, and before they reinforce the bridge, tends to take this out. Other major hurricanes we had, 1954, 1960, and many of you probably remember the most recent major hurricane we had, Hurricane Bob in 1991. As we look down the street here, on the far side of the street, starting with 4170 and the Captain Kidd, you see a number of buildings here. These buildings, in some cases, go back 140, 150 years, because many of the buildings that were over there were the buildings that supported many of the whaling and shipbuilding interests. You had sailmaking there, you had cooper or barrel making there, you had provisions that were there. So imagine what this was like back in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, going down that period where all these ships, or all these buildings rather than restaurants, were having supplies for the ships themselves. And this really changes as we're starting to go in. We're going to be down into the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and the MBL portion of the tour itself. But the business district itself is changing at this point. We're going more into the scientific institutions as we work our way down. We're on the west side of Water Street here. We're right in front of the Woods Hole Community Hall. This is a wonderful building. It's been around for about 120 years at this point. We host dance recitals, music, lectures, movies, etc. There used to be an old game room down here. Whatever you can think about could possibly happen throughout the season, we have different events here in Woods Hole Community Hall. Next to us, we have the Woods Hole Fire Station. The main fire station now is up a little bit further up Woods Hole Road. The old fire station is here. We have everything from yoga classes up there. A radio transom workshop is there. And again, we use that for meeting places. We have a farmer's market in the summer. I do want to call your attention to this piece of granite right here. If you see very close, it doesn't say Woods Hole, H-O-L-E, but rather it says Woods Hall, H-O-L-L. Why does it say Woods Hall? Well, Joseph Story Fay, who I've mentioned several times already, was a very influential person here in Woods Hole on much of the land. He was convinced that the Norse sailors back from somewhere in Scandinavia came to Woods Hole itself, came to Cape Cod, and were the first Europeans to actually visit here. So he was able to convince the townspeople, the village people of Woods Hole, to rename Woods Hole Woods Hall, H-O-L-L. Why Hall? Hall means large hill, large, small mountain, etc. in Scandinavian. And because we changed that, we changed the name from Woods Hole for about 25 years, from Woods Hole to Woods Hall. Actually, the post office itself, the official address was Woods Hall. After Joseph Story Fay passed away in the mid-1890s, townspeople got together and said, we don't want to be called Woods Hall anymore. We went back to being called Woods Hole. That's what we're called today. Back at the museum, I mentioned the fact that 4 whaling ships were actually built here in Woods Hole. If you look out here with now the buoy dock, this was the dock. The whaling ships were actually built. So again, 4 ships built using timber primarily from Woods Hole, Quistit, and Falmouth were built here. Provisions across the street. Again, you've got ships being built there, the provisions, the sails, cloth making, all the other things that a ship would need coming right across the street. And again, great place to service these ships as well. Not just the whaling ships, but just merchant vessels. Anywhere from 13 to 20 ships were based here or berthed here through the years. The main reason, great harbor right around the corner. Wonderful place, the deepest port anywhere on Cape Cod.